There are moments in history where a single heartbeat separates power from death. Vincenzo Camuccini's The Death of Caesar captures one of those moments, the exact second when the most powerful man in Rome realizes that destiny has turned against him. This is not just a painting of an assassination. It is a visual autopsy of power, betrayal, and fear. Before we analyze the artwork, we must understand the world that made this moment inevitable. After 4 brutal years of civil war against Pompey, Julius Caesar returned to Rome in 46 BC as an unstoppable force. Victory granted him not only military glory, but unprecedented political authority. The Senate, weakened and divided, named him dictator once again, this time for 10 years. Rome was still officially a republic, but in reality, all roads now led to one man. To calm tensions, Caesar chose mercy, a decision that would soon seal his fate. Caesar granted amnesty to many senators who had fought against him. What appeared noble was, in hindsight, catastrophic. Many of the men who had later raised their daggers against him were standing there alive only because of his forgiveness. Even more dangerous was Caesar's final act of confidence. He dismissed his personal guards, believing Rome had returned to stability. In reality, fear was spreading quietly through the Senate. The conspiracy was not driven by chaos, but by calculation. Many senators feared that Caesar's power would transform Rome into a monarchy, something Romans despised above all else. A king meant the end of senatorial authority. A king meant irrelevance. And so, under the mask of patriotism, fear sharpened blades. The date was chosen carefully, the Ides of March, 44 BC. Under the excuse of presenting a petition, Caesar was summoned to the Senate. Mark Antony, sensing danger, tried desperately to stop him, but he was delayed at the entrance. Inside, the trap closed. One conspirator distracted Caesar with the document. Another seized his tunic. Caesar protested. And then the first blade struck. Weapons were forbidden in the Senate, yet daggers appeared everywhere. Casca struck first. Others followed in chaos. Caesar attempted to escape, wounded and bleeding, but collapsed near the statue of Pompey, his former rival. Over 20 stab wounds followed. Among the attackers stood Marcus Junius Brutus, Caesar's adopted son. At that moment, resistance faded into resignation. Vincenzo Camuccini paints chaos by accident. Every figure, every shadow, every gesture in The Death of Caesar is calculated. Caesar stands at the center of the composition, dressed in a deep red tunic, a color that immediately draws the viewer's eye. Red symbolizes authority, sacrifice, and blood, transforming Caesar into both ruler and victim at the same time. The conspirators form a tightening circle around him. This circular movement traps Caesar visually, leaving no escape, reinforcing the feeling that his fate is sealed. Some attackers strike with violence, others hesitate, their faces revealing fear rather than conviction. Camuccini shows us that betrayal is rarely unanimous. It is chaotic, conflicted, and human. Light becomes a weapon in this painting. Caesar is illuminated, isolated from the darkness that consumes the senators. The shadows swallow the conspirators, turning them into almost anonymous figures, suggesting guilt, secrecy, and moral ambiguity. This contrast guides the viewer's judgment without a single word being spoken. Despite the brutality of the moment, the scene remains balanced and controlled. This is the essence of neoclassical art, order imposed on tragedy. Camuccini refuses to depict madness, he depicts inevitability. The architectural background of the Roman Senate reinforces this idea. Columns stand tall and unmoved, symbols of a republic that appears strong but is already collapsing from within. The building remains firm, while the ideals it represents are dying at Caesar's feet. What makes this painting so powerful is not the violence itself, but the silence that surrounds it. There is no scream, no explosion of chaos, only the cold, irreversible moment when history changes direction. Camuccini is not asking us to choose sides. He is forcing us to witness the cost of power, the fragility of political systems, and the thin line between justice and betrayal. And that is why this painting still unsettles us today. Once the blades fall silent, something far more unsettling takes over the scene: stillness. Camuccini does not show us the chaos after the assassination. Instead, he invites us into the emotional vacuum that follows betrayal, the moment when everyone realizes that there is no turning back. Caesar's body is no longer just a man. It becomes a symbol, a fallen figure that forces every conspirator to confront what they have truly done. Some senators lower their weapons. Others avoid looking at him altogether. This is not victory, it is doubt. The painting captures the precise instant when power shifts, not with celebration, but with uncertainty. The republic they believed they were saving now feels more fragile than ever. This is where the emotional weight of the artwork truly emerges. Because the murder of Caesar was not only the death of a leader, it was the death of an illusion. The illusion that violence could restore balance. The illusion that removing one man could preserve an entire system. Camuccini subtly reminds us that history does not reward intentions, it responds to consequences. The conspirators acted in the name of freedom, yet what followed was more blood, more war, and ultimately, the rise of an empire even more absolute than before. As viewers, we are placed in an uncomfortable position. We are not spectators of the attack, we are witnesses to its aftermath. And in that silence, we are forced to ask ourselves a difficult question. Was this act an act of justice, or the beginning of something far worse? The genius of this painting lies in that unanswered question. It refuses to tell us what to think. It simply leaves us alone with history and its irreversible choices. And perhaps that is why the death of Caesar still resonates today, because it mirrors a truth that transcends Rome. When power is taken by force, the cost is never fully understood until it is too late. Centuries after his death, Julius Caesar remains trapped in a question with no definitive answer. Was he a hero who reshaped Rome for the better, or a tyrant whose ambition threatened the very foundations of the Republic? Camuccini's painting does not glorify Caesar, nor does it condemn him. Instead, it presents him as history often does, with contradiction. On one hand, Caesar was a visionary, a military genius who expanded Roman territory, reformed its political system, reduced debt, and extended citizenship beyond Italy. For many, he was a symbol of order in a collapsing world. But on the other hand, his concentration of power terrified the Senate. The title of dictator for life represented a breaking point and unbearable threat to republican ideals that had defined Rome for centuries. This duality is what makes Caesar endlessly fascinating. He embodies a timeless conflict between stability and freedom, between strong leadership and absolute power. And here lies the emotional core of the story. Caesar did not fall because he was weak. He fell because he stood alone at the peak of authority, surrounded by men who feared what he had become and what he might become next. Even his assassins were not monsters. They were men convinced they were acting for the greater good, men who believed history would praise them as saviors. Instead, history remembered them as traitors. This is the tragic irony Camuccini silently captures. No one in this scene emerges victorious. Not Caesar, not Brutus, not the Republic. Only time survives, and it delivers a verdict far harsher than any blade. As viewers, we are left confronting the same dilemma that haunted Rome. How much power is too much power? And when does ambition cross the line into tyranny? These are not ancient questions. They are human ones. And that is why Caesar's fall still speaks to us today. Julius Caesar died believing he was saving Rome. His killers believed the same. And yet, in the cruel irony of history, his death achieved the exact opposite. The assassination that was meant to protect the Republic did not restore freedom. It shattered it. From the blood spilled on the Senate floor emerged a new era, an age of emperors, absolute authority, and centralized power. Within a few years, Rome would no longer be a republic. It would become an empire. Camuccini's painting freezes this precise moment of transition. Not just the death of a man, but the collapse of an idea. Caesar's body lies surrounded by senators, yet Rome itself stands alone, leaderless, vulnerable, and already changing forever. This is why the death of Caesar remains so powerful today, because it reminds us that history is not shaped by intentions, but by consequences. And it asks a final, uncomfortable question. Was Caesar the true threat to Rome? Or was Rome unable to survive without him? If this story moved you, challenged you, or made you see history differently, leave a comment below and share your interpretation. Your perspective becomes part of this ongoing conversation. Like this video if you enjoy deep historical storytelling through art. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next journey into the masterpieces that changed the world. And if you want to bring history into your own space, check the link in the description for museum-quality artworks, because great stories deserve to live beyond the screen. Thank you for watching until the very end. History never truly ends. It waits for those willing to look deeper. See you in the next video.